This episode is brought to you by Imagine Strength, your go-to for safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training equipment. Growing a successful high-intensity training business requires workout equipment that's not only high quality, but also intelligently designed to fit the unique needs of your studio. And that's where Imagine Strength comes in. Drawing on the wisdom of the legendary Arthur Jones, Imagine Strength has crafted a groundbreaking line of fitness equipment that's as affordable as it is efficient, giving your studio the upgrade it needs without breaking the bank. The team at Imagine Strength breathes HIIT. Their passion for high-intensity training shines through in their designs, which they've consistently refined and innovated for optimum effectiveness and user experience. From my personal experience at Rec, I can attest to the careful consideration and craftsmanship that goes into every single piece. My Imagine Strength workout was absolutely brutal, in a good way, of course. Now, what makes Imagine Strength truly stand out? They have innovative equipment tailored for the unique needs of HIIT studios, affordable and efficient designs, lowering the barriers to entry for a HIIT business, continuous innovation and refinement ensuring your studio stays ahead of the curve. Founder Jeff Turner and his team are dedicated to moving the HIIT industry forward and making strength training accessible to more people than ever before. Here's how you get started. Number 1, visit imaginestrength.com. Number 2, discuss your specific needs with the team. And number 3, select the equipment that will propel your business to the next level. Head to imaginestrength.com today and give your HIIT business the Imagine Strength edge. Be part of the HIIT revolution and see firsthand how their unique equipment can transform your studio's workout experience. Elevate your HIIT business with Imagine Strength.
Let's go.
Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for elevating your HIIT business and fueling your passion for high-intensity training. Before we dive into today's episode, grab your free PDF guide on how to turn your HIIT business into a robust referral machine, which was actually put together with the help of Luke Carlson. You can download that now over at highintensitybusiness.com/ref. That's REF, short for referrals. You'll also get a 4-length video training with Luke Carlson on how to build a referral machine and get access to lots of free resources, including HIIT business guides, checklists, and much more. Again, go to highintensitybusiness.com/ref, REF. That's Romeo, Echo, Foxtrot, short for referral, and to download that now. So this is episode 420, and the topic of today's episode is how to sell your HIIT business. And I'm joined by founder and CEO of Discover Strength, Luke Carlson. Luke, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Lawrence. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. And I guess, Luke and I were sort of saying before this, what we're trying to achieve with this podcast is really to give you a valuable resource that will help you if you're building to sell, like long term. You're thinking about that. You're looking at your business through that lens as you grow your business, but also if you're looking to sell soon or in the near future, this will hopefully be valuable too. So Luke, look, I thought, correct me if you feel there's a better question to start with, but I thought the question I had here was, when is the right time for a business owner to actually consider selling their business? Was the start question here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many different directions that you can take that important question. It's going to be based on the owner, the founder, where they're at, what they're trying to accomplish, what their goals are. So one way you can approach it is, are you trying to sell where you could maximize the value of the business? Are you trying to sell because you're ready to retire? Are you trying to sell because you want to exit the business and get into, a different business? So there's all these different reasons. Why would you sell? Now, when we think about most businesses, other industries, when people sell or have an exit, it's because they've built the business to sell the business. That's been the objective. So many entrepreneurs, actually, I think most entrepreneurs, the question is always, when is the goal to sell? Right? And people say, well, it's a 5-year goal, or we plan on selling in 3 years, or maybe it's 7 years and then we want to have an exit. And so those companies, those entrepreneurs are building the company to sell. And of course, they're building the company to sell because that's the major equity event. That's how they really get paid. They're making money running the business, but they really make money when they actually exit the business. And those exits could be, of course, hey, they're selling to a strategic buyer, meaning somebody else that runs a similar business and buying or acquiring your business fits in with what they're already doing. They could sell to private equity, right? Where someone else is going to run the business. It's not a strategic buyer, it's private equity. Those are probably the two most common ways that we would exit or sell. And both of them create significant financial windfalls for the owner. So I think the owner has to understand, what am I trying to accomplish? And I'm not going to be pessimistic at all when I say this, but in the fitness space, and specifically the high intensity training space, we don't see anybody sell for those reasons. We see people want to sell or exit because they're ready to retire. They're ready to get into something else. And by retire, I mean, they're truly ready to retire, or they maybe just want to get into a different industry. Let's be optimistic in this conversation. Let's talk about what the future of exiting our businesses could look like. And I want to make sure that we frame up the rest of this conversation as we could build a business where we could sell it and actually make some money. Let's be clear, this has not happened to date. I think this can definitely happen in the future if we do it right. It happens in so many other industries. It does happen in fitness outside of high intensity training. It's something we could definitely do.
Yeah, that's a great segue into my next point. But quick side quest. Obviously, both of us spoken to colleagues who are not interested in selling, and they don't want to build to sell, and they're quite happy just keeping the business going, taking sessions, or maybe hiring a few trainers. Maybe they retire and then they have trainers train clients on their behalf when they're retired, but they still own the business and still make money. How do you think about those sorts of people that have that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally fine as well, as long as they have the systems and the processes and the people involved that can run the business, and that's not easy. That's definitely not easy. We see very few cases of that, but I think that's a great pursuit, that you don't have to exit completely. You don't have to be 100% in, working with 60 clients a week or out. You could have a situation where you own the business, maybe you work every Monday and you see 8 clients on Monday, and that's your whole week. You maybe have a meeting with the team, midweek with the few trainers that you have, and that's about it. And you're maybe behind the scenes and paying some bills and a few other hours of work, but you're largely out of the business. I think that's definitely a possibility. Absolutely.
Yeah, because obviously your strategic, if that's what you want, right, which I know isn't maybe desirable for certain reasons, your strategic decisions could be very different. For instance, you could, let's say, name the business after yourself, right? If you never intend to sell, then you don't need to be completely disassociated with the business. Maybe that's one thing, right? But there's lots of decisions that can be made differently depending on what your ultimate goal is, right?
Agreed. I think all the decisions, the most important decisions, all revolve around, well, how do you create a business that has value beyond you? And that's, we'll get into it, but that's where we've struggled in our little niche in the industry, is we just haven't done that.
Okay. So next question then, following the theme you mentioned there, is what are some of the key factors that contribute to the value of a personal training business? And how can our colleagues work to enhance these factors, right? So to increase the value of their business so that is set up to sell for a good amount in the future.
I think there's 2 primary factors where we should spend most of our time. There's other factors as well that we can get into, but the 2 primary factors are, do you have systems and processes in place? And God, that sounds like such a cliche. And, Lawrence, I don't know how many times on your podcast you've mentioned systems and processes, but the idea, I think the way we have to frame it up is, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, could someone pick up a manual? Could someone, get into your Google Drive and understand exactly how to run the business? And when I say that, I mean the way that you uniquely provide value. What's your unique value proposition? And that should all be delineated in systems and processes, from everything from how you take a payment to how you market to how you actually deliver a workout. And in our case, right, how we deliver workouts, all that has to be captured somewhere. And if you can't, when you sell a business, that's what you're selling, is you're selling those systems and processes, right? I can go and purchase a new McDonald's, right? What I'm purchasing largely is the systems and processes for making a hamburger. The McDonald's I'm going to purchase, potentially, maybe I'm launching a new McDonald's, has literally never sold a hamburger. Okay. But I'm buying systems and processes that allow me to sell hamburgers repeatedly. And so do you have systems and processes in place that allow you to do what you're doing when you're physically not there. And we mentioned the workout. We mentioned how you market. We mentioned point of sale or how you actually take money. There's more processes than that, but it's probably not more than about 6 processes that you need in place, with pretty detailed steps so that somebody else could run the business besides you. If you have your processes, delineated and, articulated, the value of your business increases, many times over. And so, I've heard you just as a listener of your podcast talk to so many people about you got to set aside the time to do this. Yeah, it's pretty darn important. And it's you can continue to edit it and work on it. It doesn't have to be a one and done. You can continue to have it evolve, but this is truly the value of the business.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, get a little more detailed and practical for those listening who are thinking, well, what does that look like? It literally, like Luke's saying, it could literally be the start of it could be a Google Doc in a Google Drive with just a few bullets to describe how you deliver a certain process. So if that's your workout, heading is workout process, and you literally got, whatever it is, 5 to 10 bullets, welcome the client to the studio, ask them how their body's feeling, take them through their workout, etc. So it's just high level bullets so that if you weren't in your organization or weren't available, someone could take that and just deliver a workout exactly how you want it to be delivered. And then that is the same for every process in your business.
Yep, exactly. And I like to think
Yeah.
about the workout. Okay, so you're not there. You got hit by a bus, and okay, how fast or how slow are we supposed to lift the weight? Well, that should be in there. How many exercises do we do? How many sets of each exercise do we do? What's the duration of the workouts? Is there recommendations for single joint versus multi joint? Is there recommendation for should I primarily use machines or should I use some free weights? All of those decisions should be delineated in that process. And that's the fun of it, right? That's entrepreneurship as we get to decide what do we want it to look like.
Yeah. So what's the next step? You mentioned there were two things. Systems was the first.
Yeah. The second is performance of the business outside of you from a people standpoint. So at the end of the day, high intensity training businesses are largely people businesses. And if you've been involved in your business, if you do a significant amount of work in your business is worth very little. So if if I'm going to do a valuation in your business or I'm going to consider buying your business, the very first question I'm going to ask before systems and processes is how many hours a week do you work and how many clients do you work with? And if that number is high, your business isn't worth very much, because I know that you are the business. You're the one delivering all the sessions. And if you're not there anymore, the business is much less valuable. So that's the key question is how much is the owner actually working in the business? So if we move, Lawrence, to the conversation of, well, how would you increase the value of your business or state otherwise, how would you prepare the business for a sale? Um, Gradually work less in the business. And as you gradually phase yourself out, and you have other trainers performing in the business, that increases the value of your business. So a buyer says, "Well, this guy's not even involved, and the business still works. Okay, that's a business I'd be interested in purchasing." Now, let's just talk about different industries. This is hard to do in a service industry. This is why we don't see like dentist office, orthopedic clinics, orthodontists, and personal training facilities often purchased because it's largely one technician, one practitioner doing the work. Now, notice I stated or I named a number of different practitioners there. It's not a matter of how much money they're making. I mentioned a few people there that are making $500,000 a year, $1 million a year. So it's not that they're not lucrative. It's just one individual is driving all of that revenue largely. And so if you sell and that person's not involved, there's not much of a business there. So this is the second. And we made them both sound pretty simple. They're both pretty complicated to do. I mean, they're really tough to do. So
Yeah.
I maybe count on one hand how many high intensity training businesses worldwide have ever got to the point where an owner is not involved in the day-to-day running of the business.
Yeah. And should we talk a little bit about the how then? Like, how does one get there in high level? Obviously, like this is a detailed conversation. It could take a long time. But high level, like maybe we've already talked about the systems. Like that's pretty self-explanatory. I think we've covered that. Look at what you're doing in your business. Look at how you're delivering the workouts, how you're marketing your business, and just create a system, a checklist that someone else can do on your behalf. And I will also link to systems content that we've done. I did a podcast, which is really with the help of you, Luke, which is breaking down some content we've done before on exactly how you create systems. So I'll link to that. But the second thing is, how do we really remove ourselves from the business so to make it more valuable to sell? What are some of those real high level steps that we need to address to achieve that?
Do that to remove ourselves from the business and have somebody else working in the business and operating the business.
Correct. Yeah. So I guess systems is one part of that. And then
Yep.
there's a few other
Systems is
steps.
one part. And I would say the other one is, do you have, okay, I'm going to again say system or process for attracting, okay, recruiting, interviewing, hiring, onboarding, developing, coaching, managing, nurturing, providing feedback, and eventually offboarding talent. So do you have systems and processes around people? Do you have great performance management systems so that people can perform at an incredibly high level? If we're service businesses, it's the service provider is really kind of the key. Well, do you have systems and processes in place that allows you to attract the best people? And there's one secret to attracting really great people. And have you dealt with that one secret? And I'll share what the secret is you have to become the person, you have to become the leader that your ideal candidate wants to work for. So if you spend all the time jotting out on a sheet of paper what your ideal candidate looks like, okay, then you have to ask, okay, that you have to say, well, that's what I'm looking for. That's my ideal candidate. Then you have to ask, am I who my ideal candidate is looking for to work with or work for? And, oftentimes the answer is no. Why would your ideal candidate want to work for you? And I think that's, maybe a harsh truth. So what's that involve? That involves doing the deeper work and working on yourself and making sure that you're in a position to be a effective leader and manager, um, and coach to whoever you're hiring.
Yeah, you've got to be an attractive destination for them. You've got to understand what it is that motivates them, and that goes obviously beyond compensation. It's are they passionate about the same purpose? Are they a good core value fit, etc.? Do you align on those things? So yeah, that completely makes sense. All right, so
And then
let me
Lawrence, let's just
go ahead. Yeah,
comment on that. And we probably have to be able to do that repeatedly. So over a number of years. So, hey, you made one great hire and they trained a lot of people, right? So that's great for the consistency of your business. Let's say it's been you forever, then you hire a trainer and you've offloaded 80% of the clients to that person. So you're in a good spot right now. You're not training a ton of clients. That trainer is training the vast majority of the clients. Again, that still doesn't make your business very saleable because you haven't done it with multiple different trainers. And so ideally, we'd want to do it with multiple different trainers over a longer period of time.
got it. And what are some of the other things that we need to implement in order to maximize the business value? For example, you've talked before about monthly recurring revenue, having clients on auto pay rather than packages, increasing the value of the business. Maybe touch on that briefly, and then
Yep.
anything else that comes to mind too.
Yeah, great, Lawrence. So you're spot on. The next two for me are monthly recurring revenue. So you have an auto pay payment situation. So people are not buying packages. Their credit card is hit every month, and that it could be a monthly fee that's connected. It's probably connected with the number of sessions that they're going to do in that month. So for us, it's 4 times a month, 6 times a month, 8 times in a month, and then we just hit their credit card the beginning of each month. So when you're on an auto pay or recurring revenue type model, the value of the business increases significantly. The other thing that increases the value of the business is a shared client model. So even if you have a thriving studio and you have 8 personal trainers in that studio, if they all have their own book of business, which is usually how it works, they're training their own clients, your business is worth very little. Because when the business is sold, well, I have no idea if that particular trainer is coming with. And if the trainer doesn't come with, then I lose all the clients that that trainer works with. So building a business where the client is a client of the business and all of the trainers work with all of the clients as much as possible makes the business so much more valuable. Imagine if you went to McDonald's. Again, I don't know why I keep using McDonald's, but imagine you go to McDonald's and the person that normally makes your cheeseburger isn't there, right? Like, well, no, the value, the genius of McDonald's is anybody can make the cheeseburger for you. And that's what we want in our high intensity training businesses is you have to be able to go to that business and there's not, one is not what we call single point of failure, right? If this one trainer is not here, the experience is not there. All of the clients they work with they don't come with the business. In a shared client model, those clients say, "Yeah, I really like training with Lawrence. He's not here anymore. I miss him. That's okay because I've trained with 5 other trainers here and I like training with them as well. Going to miss Lawrence, but I still get my great workout in with these other 5."
So this is a really common issue, isn't it? Where there is favoritism from clients to train with certain trainers in our colleagues' businesses. What is the solution to this? Is it just simply hiring great people so the caliber's so high that they don't really mind so much who they train with?
Well,
Um,
it's a
yeah,
mindset that from what I can tell, most of our hit colleagues, and I don't blame them for this. They started the business, they trained everybody, and then they hired a trainer, and they looked at that trainer and said, "Hey, you got to slowly build your book of business." And then that trainer, every new client that came on went with that trainer, and so now that trainer has a full book, and the owner has a full book. Let's bring on a third trainer. They slowly built. So it was almost like you have to build your book of business. Well, and it's easier to do it that way to say, "Hey, figure it out. Just acquire clients." And once you have all your clients, you'll make, a good percentage of the money. Well, that doesn't work when we actually want to sell. So if the business actually understands how it's going to market, how it's going to sell, and what client acquisition looks like, then that's where the value lies. So how do you actually do this? I think you have trainers working different shifts all week long, and the clients should schedule whenever they want to schedule. And of course, clients actually want to schedule. They want the flexibility of working out at 5:30 a.m. or 7:30 p.m. or Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon. And if you have if you have trainers working all those different shifts, the clients schedule what works best for them, and they end up working with all of our different trainers.
so you reckon that for certainly, well, maybe for all of our clients, certainly your clients, that they're gonna prioritize schedule convenience over trainer capability, so long as the pedigree is at a certain bar, right, within the organization.
Yeah, I would say that they're gonna value the integrity of the workouts
Yeah,
over an individual trainer. And so I always think, anytime a high intensity training colleague or one of our own team members say, "No, no, no, this client only trains with this trainer. If the trainer wasn't here, the client wouldn't be here anymore." And I'd say, "No, no, no, that's not true. Because when the client came in the door, they didn't even know who the trainer was. Okay. They didn't know any trainer. They just came in the door because they heard about the business or they heard, they didn't know the trainer at all. So there, and unless it was a referral to that individual trainer, which definitely can happen. But
yeah.
even then, they hadn't met the trainer yet. And so we have clients come in all the time, and then they connect with the trainer and work with that trainer. They're like, "Yeah, I really like this trainer. I just want to be with this trainer." I'm like, "No, that you actually just came in the door, and whoever you would have worked with, I guarantee you would have really liked them. Just give somebody else a chance." And they do. And of course, they end up really liking that person. Now,
I love that. Today's episode is brought to you by Imagine Strength, your one-stop solution for safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training equipment. When it comes to high-intensity training, it's about the right workout machines intelligently designed for your studio. That's the specialty of Imagine Strength. Inspired by the legendary Alpha Jones, they've pioneered efficient and affordable fitness equipment perfectly crafted for your HIIT business. With a team that lives and breathes HIIT, Imagine Strength combines passion, innovation, and careful design into every piece of equipment, creating the perfect environment for an intense yet rewarding workout. So why choose Imagine Strength? Number one, they create innovative, tailor-made equipment for HIIT studios. Number two, they provide cost-efficient designs, making HIIT more accessible. And number three, they're committed to continuous innovation and refinement so your studio never falls behind. Elevate your HIIT business with a team at Imagine Strength. Visit imaginestrength.com to discuss your needs and select the gear that'll take your business to new heights. Be a part of the HIIT revolution with Imagine Strength and see how their equipment can transform your workout experience.
and I'm aware that there is better fit every now and then. There are definitely preferences. Like I may say, "Lawrence, I love your whole team, but I like training with you the best." That still exists. Now, this is an important side note. As the high intensity training business owner, we have to get to a point where we get more excited about our client loving our trainer than we are excited about them loving us. And that's a hit in our ego. The greatest compliment I can have is, wow, Luke, you put me through incredible workouts, but you're like the fifth best trainer in this location, right? That's the best compliment. And
Yeah, I love
that's
that.
actually is a compliment. It's not me being self-deprecating. It's a compliment because on my, real internal, arrogant moment, well, I helped develop those trainers. So that stokes my ego.
Yeah, got it. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so get away or have a shared book of clients, as you said there. And then what would be, is there anything else that comes to mind to really maximize the value? What about like having a certain, like, keeping, obviously maximizing like EBITDA or profitability as well? Anything else?
Yeah. Okay. So Lawrence, I feel like you're just complete step ahead of me. You're spot on. So I think those
Doubtful.
four things that we covered, those four things that we covered will generally drive an EBITDA. But if you don't have EBITDA or if you don't have margin, the business is probably not ready to sell. That's what the value of your business is going to be connected to, is some multiple of your profit. And let's just not say EBITDA, let's just say profit. That is how your business is going to be valued. You can do a valuation on a business really quickly, take a multiple of whatever that profit is. Now, let's just to illustrate that point, let's maybe comment on what most business owners think their business is worth or how it should be valued. Most high intensity training practitioners think about the value of the equipment. Your equipment's worth almost nothing. Okay. When you're selling the business, like, the equipment's an afterthought. In businesses that we've sold or that people have wanted to purchase, I could have said, I'm going to take all the equipment with me, and then you can buy the business, and the value of the business would be not the exact same, but almost the exact same. There's just very little value to our equipment. So most high intensity training practitioners value the equipment a lot. And then they think about the revenue. They think about the top line revenue. And of course, the top line revenue is not what's important. It's the EBITDA. So this gets us to the real problem. We just don't have many businesses in our space that have decent EBITDA at all. So let's just say the business is doing, $200,000 in revenue as a whole. And let's say there's a strong EBITDA. Let's say it's 20% EBITDA or 20% profit. That's $40,000 in profit for the year. If you sell at maybe 3 multiples of EBITDA, you just sold at $120,000. Okay. That's not a great exit. And that's 20% EBITDA is a really high EBITDA. And a multiple of 3 is pretty darn good for our type of business. Now, if you have some other factors in place, maybe you're going to get more than 3, but that's not considered a great exit business. And then if you say, well, it's $120,000, what would I be earning if I continue to run the business? Does it make sense to exit the business? And so you asked at the beginning, well, how do you know when it's time to exit? Part of it is, if the economics aren't there, to make the exits a good exit, unless you're really looking to get out, you can't really celebrate that exit. I'm around entrepreneurs every single day that they're trying to exit the business and maximize the value of that exit. If they're not getting out for 10 million or 100 million or 400 million, then they're not going to exit. They're going to keep growing the business until they can figure out how the business works, and then they're going to exit. Now, let's be clear. If you get sick or your spouse gets sick and you don't want to run the business anymore, you need to exit, and you can not, lose money on the deal, there's a place for that as well. And I get that, and I want to respect that. But if we're trying to actually grow the business to something that we could profitably sell, we got to think about getting a healthy EBITDA. Now, when you think about just a thriving high intensity training business, small studio, under 2,000 square feet, $1 million in revenue, and it's at 20% EBITDA. Okay. So now you're doing $200,000 in profit a year. You got good systems and processes in place. Clearly there's a lot of trainers involved to do $1 million in revenue. If we take a multiple of 3 or 4 of that 200,000, okay, now we're at $600,000, $800,000. You can probably sell that business for close to $1 million. Or I know you can sell that business for $1 million, and that's a pretty good exit. But we have to do a lot to get to that point. We have to actually build it to get to that point.
Sure. And I guess let's assume that, there's people listening to this who have, I know there's probably a very small percentage in our niche, or at least now very motivated to address the things that we discussed here to maximize value of their business. What about when it comes to actually preparing business for sale? I'm just curious how you think about this. Steps would you go through? You may take DS, for example, maybe it's a much bigger scale with DS, but um, maybe, yeah, just I'd love your thoughts on how you would actually prepare for a sale if you were thinking about
Well, I would make no investments that I would make no purchases that negatively impact EBITDA, right? I'm not gonna,
that.
buy new equipment. I'm not gonna do anything that's gonna impact that EBITDA because that's all anyone's gonna look at is what is the EBITDA like. So I'm gonna spend many months or quarters trying to maximize that EBITDA and prop up that EBITDA as much as possible. Not to the point where, hey, we're not buying any new pencils, but I mean that's kind of let's be lean and let's prop up the EBITDA so that it's ready for sale. I think that's the main focus beyond, actually making a strong core business and do you have people and processes and so forth in place.
What about in terms of, is there a preferred timeline or runway for preparing to sell a hit business? Like, how far in advance should one begin this process? If their goal is to sell it, I don't know, in the near future, should they be thinking about it? Well, I guess you're thinking about it all the time if you're building to sell. But I guess if you're actually like, no, you know what, I want to sell by like December 2024, then you've got to really make sure you've got a plan in place to do that. Well, what sort of runway would you be thinking? Yeah.
So I agree, Lawrence, but I think everyone that I've ever known that sold a business, they thought about it from the day the business started. I mean, every
Yeah.
decision they made was let's prepare this for sale. And prepared for sale often meant let's keep running a great business, which meant let's have processes and systems and great people and repeatable processes around people. And so they were always preparing it for sale. Maybe there's like an acute prop up period for a few quarters at the end where you're trying to get EBITDA, where it should be, or you can run a great business for a long time with poor EBITDA because you have not, you're not growing it to sell it. You're growing it to really capture market share, right? Like you really want to grow revenue as much as possible. And therefore maybe prices are lower. I don't think this works in our model, but there's a heck of a lot of businesses that that's the case, or you're trying to achieve network effect or something like that. So I think there's a place for that. I don't know where the place is for that in the high intensity training business, but in terms of preparation for sale, everything I've seen is this can happen very, very, very quickly. If your
Yeah.
business is saleable, it can happen quickly. I've seen transactions take place in 10 days for millions and millions and millions of dollars from the
Wow.
time the buyer first interacts with the seller and the whole deal is done in 10 days. I've also seen it take 6 weeks, and I don't think 6 weeks is a long time. I think 6 weeks is still pretty quick. So I think all of this can be done pretty quickly. So your question's such a tough question because it just depends on the stage of the business. How has the entrepreneur, the owner been running the business? Have they have processes and systems and people in place or not?
Yeah, and you got me thinking about. I was messaging you recently about trying to get statistics on the fitness industry, and they're so good, right? The growth of the boutique fitness industry has been significant over the last sort of 10, 15 years. And so I can see why. I mean, maybe what you're saying is relevant across multiple industries and verticals. If you've got a really attractive business, it can happen fast. But I also think that's really relevant in fitness as well, potentially. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, Luke. A long time ago, we were talking about DS, and you said, "You know what, Lawrence? The reason I wouldn't probably sell DS is because if I sat in a coffee shop afterwards and thought about what I want to do with my time, I just go buy a bunch of machines and start training people again." Do you still feel that way? I'm just curious because obviously you're building a incredibly valuable business with DS, and I just love to know how you're thinking about that for yourself and for the business.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that was the joke and it didn't start off as a joke is if I sold, and I made, any money whatsoever, okay, let's not even think about how much money, could be made. I would for sure build a new house and I would build a workout room that's like Jim Flanagan's, but a little bit bigger. I'd just be and I would put great equipment in it, collection of equipment from every different era, and I would have someone coming over and I'd take them through a workout, and then and then someone else would hear about it, and then eventually I'd be training a few people, and I'd be thinking, well, I don't want to train anybody else, and someone would say, well, I'll pay you, and then a few months later, I've accidentally restarted the same business, and if that's the case, then I might as well enjoy running my own business right now. And I think this is kind of a fundamental philosophical belief. Like, I think we were put on earth not to, enjoy leisure time. We were not put on earth to lay on beaches. We were not put on earth to, sit back and watch Netflix. We were put on earth, I think, to be purposeful and to work and to contribute. And so to me, like, well, okay, if that's the case, and that's what I believe, what do I want my contribution of my work to be? And for me, it's being involved in a high intensity training business. And I go back, this is, it's my favorite quote from any Rocky movie, and it's a lesser known quote, but in Rocky 4, before Rocky, he's talking with Apollo. So this is before Rocky fights Ivan Drago, the Russian. Apollo is saying, hey, I want to fight Ivan Drago. And Rocky's like, why? You got everything. You got money. You got, family. You got everything. You got a house and cars and all of it. And Apollo basically says, this is not everything. Like, what we have, this house, the cars, it's not everything. And here's the quote. He says to Rocky, he says, Stallion, Rocky's nickname, Italian stallion, we're warriors. And without a war to fight in, the warrior might as well be dead. And maybe I've said that on your podcast before, and I'm not saying
I never get bored of hearing it.
okay, well, sorry for repeating it. And so to me, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to say that we're warriors or that I'm a warrior, but if you view yourself, that you want to be purposeful and you want to contribute, then you need that war to fight in. And so anytime I've ever found myself thinking, I'd love to exit the business and just do some speaking or a teeny bit of consulting, within 10 seconds, I'm thinking, no, I want to be in the thick of the war. I was probably put on earth to be thrown into the thick of it. And, the thick of it in a high intensity training business to me is about as fun as it gets.
Yeah. Amazing. Love that.
And my fun, let's be clear, there's still tough stuff, right? Like, we're talking, it's 4:39 a.m. where I am right now. I was in a brutal meeting last night from 7:15 to 8 o'clock that was about as uncomfortable as a meeting with some staff as, I've had in the last 2 years. I mean, there's still brutally tough days, don't get me wrong, but it's still where I want to be.
Understood. Thank you. Yeah, and you obviously you said it there, but funny side note for the listeners, I had to check back with Heather, your assistant. I said, "Is Luke wants to do 4 a.m. CST? He's traveling, right? He's not there. It's a more friendly time zone than that." And she said, "No. He's happy to do it then." But as you said at the start, you have a flight, so it's panned out quite nicely for you. One more question, and we'll probably wrap, Luke. Obviously, again, let's assume we've got people listening to this who want to build to sell or have built to sell, and they're kind of planning that kind of selling process. Have you got any tips on how they go about finding potential buyers, and any tips on pitching and negotiation?
Yeah. I think in our space, I don't really know. That's a great question. What I would do if I was selling the high intensity training business is I would reach out to you, right? I would get it on your be a member of the HIT business membership, and I would get it spread out among the membership. Those are people that are running successful high intensity training businesses that want to grow their high intensity training businesses. That's where I would start. I would want to sell to someone that wants to operate in that business. Another great way to sell, that's number one. That's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is I would look internal. Do I have a staff member that could potentially purchase? The downside of selling to a staff member is you might have to change the terms. But you could still get, you could still sell for as much, but you might have different terms where, if you're going to sell for, let's just make up the number, for $200,000, some other buyer may be able to finance $200,000. You can take a $200,000 check and walk away. Where if you're going to sell to one of your current people, you might say, all right, let's go $10,000 down, or I need you to borrow and get $20,000 down. And then I'm going to carry the note, and you're going to pay me $2,000 a month for however many months. So that's not this windfall of cash for you, but maybe you also feel better about who's purchased it then. And maybe there's more continuity among the clients. And then you could say, well, the business is actually probably worth more if I sell it to one of my current staff, because there's already a relationship with all those businesses, or excuse me, with those trainers. Relationship with the client, and client has a relationship with the trainer. We should just mention this, Lawrence, because we said it, we danced around it, but we didn't say it specifically. When you're selling a high intensity training business, you're selling a book of clients. Okay. And so if you have no guarantee those clients are going to keep coming in the door, you're in trouble. So when I look at, I've been to high intensity training businesses everywhere, And if I look at buying them, well, I'm not buying the lease. I'm not buying the equipment. So I'm buying a book of clients. So if you don't have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients, what would I be buying? And so that's, I mean, you asked, and I probably danced around it. If you're trying to prepare for a sale, I would try to acquire as many clients as possible, because that's, of course, what you're selling. Now, I realize that's obvious. We're always trying to acquire more clients.
Just on that, actually, what about retention? So obviously, if you can, I'm assuming if you can demonstrate to a potential buyer that you have very, very good retention, that's massively valuable too, right? So maybe you got to work on that in that period as well when you're looking to optimize the value.
Yeah, I mean, so retention obviously drives the revenue,
Sure.
right? So having clients is what drives our revenue, and we clearly don't want to have to continue to sell every month. We want to be able to retain, but that's the underpinning the whole business. Absolutely.
Got it. Okay. Luke, thank you so much. So just to, I guess, looking at a couple of questions here, I'm thinking one more just to quickly wrap. Um, what about once the business is sold, how can owners ensure a really smooth transition for clients and new owners? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, if I were involved in that, what I would do is I would make sure that the owner who is selling is involved in like a unwinding period. So maybe it's 6 months. And I'm making up the time frame. Maybe it's 3 months, but it's 3 months where you're still working in the business, you're still seeing some clients, and you're just slowly stepping away and handing off to the new owner. So there's some continuity in the business. There's continuity in seeing the owner's face. There's continuity in client contact. So it happens over a gradual period of time. And I think that could be negotiated. Is 1 month? Is it 6 months? I don't think it probably has to be longer than 6 months, but that's what I would do.
Got it. Thank you. Great stuff, Luke. And best way people to find out about you, discoverstrength.com and discoverstrengthfranchise.com. And do you still like people to follow you on Instagram? Is that another
Yeah, all
go-to?
of those. Yeah, yes, sir. Yep.
So what is it? Luke Carlson. What is it on Instagram?
3070. Luke Carlson 3070.
Okay. Let's think about that for a second. Excellent. Really enjoyed this, Luke, as always. And everyone listening, remember to grab your free PDF guide on how to turn your hit business into a robust referral machine. You can download that now, over at highintensitybusiness.com/ref. And Luke mentioned a whole bunch of stuff earlier about, how to attract and retain and onboard trainers, among many other things. We've got free resources that show you how to do that as well. When you also download that PDF there at highintensitybusiness.com/ref. So lots of free resources. Please go do that when you get an opportunity. And to get the full show notes for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com, search for episode 420. And until next time, thank you very much for listening. This episode is brought to you by Imagine Strength, your go-to for safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training equipment. Growing a successful high-intensity training business requires workout equipment that's not only high quality, but also intelligently designed to fit the unique needs of your studio. And that's where Imagine Strength comes in. Drawing on the wisdom of the legendary Arthur Jones, Imagine Strength has crafted a groundbreaking line of fitness equipment that's as affordable as it is efficient, giving your studio the upgrade it needs without breaking the bank. The team at Imagine Strength breathes HIIT. Their passion for high-intensity training shines through in their designs, which they've consistently refined and innovated for optimum effectiveness and user experience. From my personal experience at Rec, I can attest to the careful consideration and craftsmanship that goes into every single piece. My Imagine Strength workout was absolutely brutal, in a good way, of course. Now, what makes Imagine Strength truly stand out? They have innovative equipment tailored for the unique needs of HIIT studios, affordable and efficient designs, lowering the barriers to entry for a HIIT business, continuous innovation and refinement ensuring your studio stays ahead of the curve. Founder Jeff Turner and his team are dedicated to moving the HIIT industry forward and making strength training accessible to more people than ever before. Here's how you get started. Number 1, visit imaginestrength.com. Number 2, discuss your specific needs with the team. And number 3, select the equipment that will propel your business to the next level. Head to imaginestrength.com today and give your HIIT business the Imagine Strength edge. Be part of the HIIT revolution and see firsthand how their unique equipment can transform your studio's workout experience. Elevate your HIIT business with Imagine Strength.